horse racing, but that's not the same.
Yeah.
What I'm really upset about is the suppression. I mean, there seems to be a really strong favoring of rating harsher content with sexual themes as opposed to the violence. As we were just discussing, they were concerned with the violent aspects and connections between different types of violent activities and violent video games. But I was watching a TV show, and I was with my girlfriend, and came across one scene where they're on a bridge and they come across a zombie, and they need to collect the resources off the zombie. And there's this mask.
Was it Walking Dead?
It might have been.
You say zombie, I'm just thinking
There's a zombie in it. There was a zombie in it, but it might have been. Yeah, it was. So they go and collect the things, and they pull the mask off the zombie, and the whole face of the zombie, and it's just, the camera doesn't cut away. It just holds, and you see the skin snapping and the blood pouring out of the freshly opened face cavity, and you see the decaying, all the gritty, gory details are fully on display. And I just got up. I was just, you can channel surf at any point in the day and run across a television program with this kind of violence. But God forbid you accidentally see a pair of titties. There's this horrible suppression in my mind about this.
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. I feel like more damage can be done to a young mind seeing somebody get their face blown off than accidentally seeing boobies. Now, I know people are going to say, like, well, you have pornography in some cases, and it's like, now that's a fair point, too. What I would say, though, at the end of the day, if somebody were to accidentally be exposed, accidentally see somebody, full nudity versus them being killed in front of you, I'm just going to say them being killed in front of you would do more emotional scarring. But here in America, that's more of the thing in a nutshell. Is violence is perceived as it's a big deal, but it's not that big a deal.
Mm.
Nudity is no. Whereas from what I've seen so far in Europe, throughout the EU, I'm not going to say it's universally the same everywhere, but from what I've seen, nudity tends to be more kind of like, oh, it is what it is. Whereas violence is more kind of tightly regulated, because at the end of the day, seeing somebody getting their face blown off would do more damage to somebody's mind than the other.
Considering the history that Europe has gone through, not just within the last couple of decades, but there's been constant turmoil. Generations of generations. There's always been a battle going on in Europe, either between the French and the Germans, or the Italians and the French. There's always some sort of sector about Europe.
There was always some sort of there's always some war between neighboring countries. And honestly, it wasn't until, quick history side note, but it wasn't until after World War II where the countries started realizing that, wait a minute, guys, not only is fighting stupid, but we can, having economic ties is better, because we'll all be stronger if we all work together. And eventually that formed the EU, and the rest was history there. And, but in a short little historical, hey, this is what happened kind of thing. But you're right. They went through a lot of violence in their history, and
they did. For them, so it makes complete sense that they wouldn't want to have any sort of inkling or any sort of trigger or fire to start to generate some sort of violent energy. As opposed, if you look in America's history, the way it was founded, it was through a revolution, which we won. There was a civil war, which we won. We were always either in the fight, instigating it, or winning it. So violence sort of kind of in Americans' history is a positive thing. We won our independence because of it. We fought off rebelling slave owners because... Right? What was that? I'm sorry?
Oh, no, just to even take it a step further, violence is embedded in America's history, because you come over, you kill Indians, take their land, fight the British, push them back. You fight them again in 1812. You push them back. Again, I'm going completely quickie version of that we learned in school here. So I'm sure there are gaps filled in. There are bad presidents, but I'm just giving you a quick overview.
Yeah.
Fought ourselves in the Civil War. went across the ocean, fought in Europe again, did it again in World War II, and then did it again in Korea, did it again in Vietnam. So as a culture, like we were founded on the idea of violence forming this country, and that's my long-winded way of saying, yeah, no, agree with what you're saying to an extent and everything. This is what made us who we are, and maybe that's why with violence, it's whatever. We're used to having this not too far away from us.
It's yeah. I think it's what we're sort of getting at here is that there's sort of an agenda to push certain things. If they want to protect. I don't know what it is about video games and violence, but they found something that scared people. They don't want their children to turn into these psychotic psychopaths who go to school with guns and blow everybody away. They want to stop that, but the way that our society is sort of churning out these, video games, it's almost as if they're saying, hey, next year there's going to be a new mass shooter that everyone's, really pumped for. Let's make a controversy, or, let's react to something that we'll say is related to video games. It's a very sensitive subject, but mass shootings, those do occur at least a few times a month at this rate. And it just is a likely target that some representatives, as we've seen, don't play the video games, don't have the history, don't understand what it's really about. They go in there
Just
touting their power, saying, hey, this is how I feel. I've done no research. Let me just stamp a decree and make it law.
And then, yeah, that's the thing. It's one thing where if they play it or they at least do their research, but they don't play it. They don't do their research.
As we were just reading, Joe Lieberman did not play Night Trap, but
Didn't even watch any of the footage. Like you could have at least, in reality, if you're a halfway decent congressperson, like if you actually were to take your job seriously and not have an agenda for the most part.
Yeah, if you were, but
right,
then we wouldn't be living in America.
That's true. But in a perfect world, I don't know. He phones up the company, phones up the developers, asks about the game, get more information, look up footage of it. I mean, what's funny is Mortal Kombat maybe sort of they had a point because America gets in a moral panic easily and like he has an agenda. But it's like Night Trap. It's like really it chose this game to like die on this hill. It's like I don't know. You could have picked something like even Double Dragon from the '80s. Like that game didn't have the same level of violence as Mortal Kombat, but it had cartoony violence. But Night Trap, anyway. But that's
yeah. I mean, we have evolved just like video games have over the decades. Mortal Kombat certainly has changed. I mean, I've played some of the more recent ones. I think the 2011 or something. Not any of the like newest ones, but they did a Jason and Freddy Krueger skin in a DLC.
I remember that one. Was that the one that came a little bit after the DC Mortal Kombat one?
Yes, it was. I think it was after Injustice, and my roommate was huge into Injustice and Mortal Kombat at the time, and I was like, "Oh, if you got the skins, I'll play as Freddy Krueger or Jason." Oh,
but yeah,
it's changed over over that period of time, and what has happened is the environment that it's grown from has caused it to grow into what it is. So, as we were discussing, this sort of natural agenda against it has created sort of this pushing the envelope to create. I mean, look at the video games of today; they're absolutely stunning. The amount of quality and detail to them. I mean, do you feel like these video games would be the way that they are now if it weren't for the society creating restrictions, making criticisms and critiques? I mean, taking it as far as they went. For God's sakes, they were thinking about publishing an entire ban against violent video games, but here they are today.
I think the idea of America hates the idea of censorship. To be fair, a lot of countries do. But America has this certain grasp of, you don't want to be told what to do. You don't want to tell me that I can't play video games. And so I think that mantra maybe does reflect a little bit on the developers that make it. And to that end, I think it made them push it further, like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. Again, it's funny to say that, but
yeah, no.
they were the beginning. They were the beginning in that they had to take their punches in the ring, and then other developers saw the troubles they went through, and then they just pushed their game, pushed their agenda, or not agenda, but they pushed their product, and they made the thing they wanted to. And in the end, I guess look where we are today. You've got games that tell great stories. You've got games that still are violent. You've got games that still show nudity every now and then. And you know what? Mortal Kombat and the other developers had to go through their trials and tribulations in the early 90s. So that way we can kind of get to this point. Games were always going to evolve anyway, but I'm thinking maybe because of that, it helped it evolve in such a way so that way. Remember what I said earlier? Gaming industry was able to use the movie industry as a reference to like go right where maybe the game or the movie industry went left.
Yeah, the
Maybe
templates.
maybe in some ways that's what happened here to an extent. Now, I'm not going to say it's all hunky dory. There's still their controversies. There's still, the game Doom, with Columbine. You have the hot coffee mod in GTA, and then you have every now and then politicians laying blame, saying that this game caused this mass shooting, and it's like, again, I don't want to turn this too political and everything, but at the end of the day, games are kind of going through their trial and tribulations period right now. I'm thinking by the time you and I are a little gray and old, it won't be as bad anymore in that regard.
I think so too. I certainly think as the older generation sort of kind of grows up with it, it'll sort of become more normalized. We'll soon become the boomers, quote unquote. The millennials will become the old man that society kind of fights and rebels against. But what we've learned in our adolescence into our adulthood, we brought with us, as children growing up with it. We were really introduced to some of the very first games, the first policies, the first reactions to where video games is going, what it can do, and what we want it to do for us. Before we go, I would like to mention one of my favorite video games. It's called House Party, and it's a sex simulator game that isn't as sexy as a lot of people just, fantasize it being. You can certainly cheat and mod and, get your way to the goal, without going through all of the hoops or play the game. But I think that the game actually does wonders for people who want to learn how to interact with another person and not have to worry or put themselves in the situation in reality. They can just sit there and talk to the character and learn about who the character is, because that's really how you progress in the game. And it's so funny that this game is sort of shunned or frowned upon, or the way that it is sort of see it in online media is that it's kind of the taboo game that everyone has that no one talks about. It really does provide the type of conditioning and the type of training that someone needs to learn to talk to people. I mean, you can walk into the game, take your pants off, and piss all over the couch if you want, but you're not getting laid. Like, you have to pay attention to these characters. You have to learn about these characters. You have to know what they're looking for, how you do it in a proper, good manner. You can play Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever video game that you want to and relieve all the stress that you want and not go out and hurt people. But at the end of the day, I think that when we want to learn to talk to people, the one thing that really helps that people tend to overlook is how important it is to listen to people. You can hear what they're saying, or you can listen to what they're saying. I can hear a person say, "Oh, it's a really terrible day." Or I could listen to them and wonder what it was specifically about their day, figure out a way to improve their lives around it. With that being said, I think that video games really do get a harsh kind of rap in society, as we're discussing, kind of going through their evolutionary process. Video games are a billion-dollar industry that bring in not only investors and moneymakers, but the common man and your casual gamer as well. People of all creeds, colors, races, economic backgrounds, sexual orientations. It's a place for people to come together, and restrictions kind of create a burden between some people. And I feel like discussing those burdens can help us improve the environment around us when it comes to gaming.
Oh yeah, at the end of the day, they're a very powerful thing that just in the same way movies and music, they can just be a way to mellow out after a busy day, whether at work or whether at school. Sometimes you just want to get home, you want to play your favorite game, and you just want to keep it simple and just relax. That's all most people do when they play games.
Honestly.
Sure, some people maybe play too much of it, but honestly, people just want to be able to relax and have fun. The same way people want to binge on Netflix or want to just listen to a Spotify playlist or whatever all day. That's really all there is to it. One thing I did want to mention before we go, it's a funny story from the GTA days. Back in 2005, I think it was, when GTA San Andreas came out. So, full disclosure, I've been playing games ever since I was a kid. My parents, again, funny talking about violence, my parents didn't care that I played Doom.
That's
My
awesome.
parents didn't care that I played GoldenEye. They didn't care that I played Perfect Dark or any of these shooter games.
Yeah, same
I
here.
mean, and then when GTA 3 came out, guess what? They still didn't care. They probably saw stuff on the news, but you know what? They were just like, oh, my kid's fine, whatever.
Complete
So I
opposite.
played GTA.
Parents
Then
didn't
I played,
care. Yeah, parents didn't care. I played Doom. In fact, my uncle showed me. Parents bought me GoldenEye, but when it came to GTA 3, they said no.
oh, man.
But
Yeah, no, and I played GTA 3, didn't care. Played Vice City, didn't care. But San Andreas. San Andreas was the roadblock because San Andreas. So I remember the game came out. I think the game came out, had a PC and PS2 copy at the time. I remember initially I played GTA 3 and Vice City on the PC on like a crappy Dell laptop of its day. Nothing special, but it was good enough to play the game.
mm,
And then GTA San Andreas came out, and originally I went to go buy it myself. I actually managed to get my own money and go buy it myself on PC. But then I realized, because I was PC illiterate at the time, I didn't realize that my computer wouldn't run it. So, so
yeah,
crap. So I go return it, and I realized, oh man, the only way to play this game is to get it on PS2 because that was the only other system it was on at the time before it came out to Xbox.
mm.
So I'm like, damn. So what I did was I ended up having to work at my job at D'Angelo's, managed to save enough money, and I went to go. And as I was saving up the money for it, so being a teenager and making minimum wage, saving up the money, and that's when the whole 60 minutes or news stories came out about how the hot coffee mod, and the hot coffee mod was a mod where you could have clothed sex with a prostitute. I think
I think it
was it.
was. Yeah, I think that they called her a prostitute, but it was really his
One of
girlfriend.
CJ's, yeah, one of CJ's girlfriends in the game. The CJ, the main character.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's okay. So yeah, that's okay. So that's all it was. But anyway, in the game, yeah, you have it's polygons, like because the graphics were good in its day, but by today's standards, they're pretty bad. But it was basically just polygons dry humping on the bed. That's all it really was, I think.
I mean,
Anyway,
I'm certainly going to encourage anyone listening to just Google hot coffee mod Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. If you get aroused watching that video, maybe there is something to this. But I doubt with the way cartoons have evolved and how porn has evolved that anyone would look at that and be like, this is turning me on.
right?
But I'm
But
always willing to be proven wrong.
yeah, same here, same here. But anyway, so anyway, all those news stories and whatnot came out about it. You know, I was saving up. I was maybe like a week or two away from being able to get the game from my working at my job to get the game because to get the PS2 and the game, I think it was like $210, whatever, back at the time.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
I ended
roughly
up,
right.
so yeah, I got the game. That's when I was able to get the game. That's why my mom told me like you can't play this game, and I was so irritated because I had played GTA 3, I had played GTA Vice City, and this is the next one I wanted to play, and it looked cool because I read up all the stuff about it. Huge open world, all these new vehicles, all these new places to explore. You know, this new story.
The stun
So,
plane.
oh yeah, this. Oh my God,
I
this all,
remember
and
getting
then the
really
planes.
excited about the stun plane.
Oh, I remember getting so excited that you could fly a 747. That
Oh,
was
dude, yeah, that
dope.
was.
But I did what any teenager would do. I ignored what my mom said, and I went to go buy the game. I went to go to the Best Buy Cambridge Side Gallery, and I had the PS2 and the game at the checkout, and they asked for my ID. I was 15 at the time. It was an M-rated game, it to be 17. So I just bold-faced lied to the guy and said, "Yeah, I can't get the ID because the form that you fill out where you have to put your social, there was something up with my social, and they wouldn't issue me the ID. But I could assure you that that I am 17." I think the guy honestly just could not care less. Like he
I
was one
mean,
of those guys
yeah.
where I'm getting the minimum wage at my job. I don't care. So he ended up just selling it to me anyway.
Only
And I
in
took the game,
America.
of course. So then I took the game home, took the PS2 and game home. I set it up in my room, and then I just played the game in my room for a solid month. And my mom didn't know. Like when she would come up the stairs, I would just switch the input and just pretend that I was playing something on my GameCube system, so, like Mario, whatever. But one day I goofed. I didn't hear her coming. She came up, saw the game, and for whatever reason, she recognized it and got all mad.
That's a good mom.
Stormed off, and I'm just like, oh crap. And then my brother, to his credit, to this day, I don't know what he said, but my brother was home at the time, saw what was happening. So my brother is just like, let me go talk to mom. 15, 20 minutes go by, comes back up and says, you're good. Don't worry about it. And then my mom just never brings it up ever again. And just was like, you know what? You play whatever you want, Ramsay. And then I'm like, okay. And that was that. Then after that, my parents never had another issue with any game after that. Although to be fair, by the time any other violent games I would have bought at that point, I would have been past 18. She couldn't do anything anyway. But yeah, that was my experience with GTA San Andreas.
Oh my god!
Buying the game in secret and lying about it,
Absolutely,
as any teenager would.
I absolutely love that you were able to get the game despite the fact that you were underage, and you still. I mean, you worked to earn that game. You were still confronted with, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You bought it. You convinced the guy that you were of age. You get home, and then to get hit with that, no, I'm sorry, I know this game, and you're not playing it. Like, oh, I just would have ruffled up a newspaper, and I've just been like, no, you don't understand. I earned this game.
And at the time, when I was working that crap job at D'Angelo's, I was getting paid minimum wage, which at that time I think was like $5.50 an hour. So
Jesus, yeah, to get a
yeah, so it took a while just to get enough money for that because as a teenager you don't do 8-hour days, you do like a 3 or 4 hour shift at D'Angelo's, so it took a while.
Toys R Us, yeah, I remember. Oh,
terrifying. Oh, yeah. You know.
Oh, but my parents would not let me play Grand Theft Auto 3 for a little while, and it was sort of because of violence in video games and all of that. But I mean, my parents bought me other violent video games, so I was like, really, what's so upsetting about this video game? Before we bought the game, we rented it at Video Horizons, which was our local movie, it was like Blockbuster, but it was Winchester's local version of it. It was a small nook shop, family owned. They had dozens of VHSs. It was great. They did video games, they did video game consoles, DVDs, VHS. So you could rent PS2 with a PS2 game. And they were like, oh yeah, it's, so-and-so, a couple of dollars. You can reserve it, call ahead, the next person who has it. They'll call us, they'll let us know. My mom would always be the one renting it so that she didn't, have any issue. She was over 17. They just assumed she was renting it for herself. And then one day, she comes in with us, and we're going up and we're making sure it's there. And the guy knows immediately that we're underage, we shouldn't be playing this game. Well, there happens to be a cop at Video Horizons, and my mom asks for the console and the game, and they pull it out from behind the counter, and they're scanning it, and the cop sees that my mom is renting this game. And, the two little kids, they're 13, 14, they're 14, 15, they're not 17, 18. So the cop looks over at my mom, and she goes, you're not renting that game for them, are you? And she goes, yeah, I am. Why? She goes, you do know that, you can kill cops in this game. Now imagine hearing that from a cop. My mom's face dropped. She looked at the counter, and the guy behind the counter was like, it's rated M. You see what this M stands for? This M stands for mature and only. So we can only rent this game. So she looks at us, and my brother is just like, fuck you, man. This is bullshit. And I look at my mom, and I just start crying. Because I know that she's not going to rent it because of what they've said.
The cop ruined it, man. You guys had it in the bag.
So funny enough, I decided to buy it for PC, thinking, oh, well, I can get around it. Like, I'll just play it on my computer. The same thing happened. I was PC ignorant. I did not realize that, it was a 2 gigabyte game, and I had a 500 megabyte system. There wasn't enough room for it. So when I was playing it, it would show me 1 frame every minute.
That's rough.
So I'd sit there and I'd tap forward, and I'd go and I'd get myself a glass of water. And I'd come back down, I'd tap forward, and I'd move again. It was painful, but
But yeah, guys, we know a thing or two about getting games and trying to hide it from our parents.
absolutely. If there's anything in this podcast that you heard that you want to know more about, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Don't
Yep.
forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for more engaging conversations in the world of the evolving video game industry. If there's a topic that you have in mind that you think that we would do well talking about,
Yes, please let us know. We'd love to talk about anything relating to the gaming industry, whatever you might have.
well, that's going to do it for us here at the PinPoint Players. Thanks for tuning in. Take it easy, folks.